This video is about Django and Vue.js TODO app where asynchronous calls are performed with the fetch function. Small demo. It's a simple TODO application built with Django 3.1 and Vue.js. Also, I'm using Bootstrap 4 to make it look nice. It's just vanilla Django and Vue.js without components. This video differs from previous ones. The same is only HTML layout and its behavior. So let's start it, and I want to install Django. Okay, now I'm creating a new Django project with the Django admin command. Start project, and the name of the project will be TODO. Great. My TODO project will store information only about tasks, and so I want to create only one Django application, the task app. So Python manage py start app task. Now I have to add the task application to my project. I am opening child TODO folder and I need settings py file. And here I am appending installed apps list with my task app. Then on the level of my manage py file, in the parents TODO app folder, I am create new folder templates and new folder static. And now I have to say to Django that he has these two folders. So again, in the settings py file, I am appending the there's list of the templates list with the os path join call, and I'm using here base dir variable, and the templates is the name of this folder. And I have to import the os module. Here I want to create a new list static files there's, and do here the same, os path join. Great, now I need to create in the static folder two files, styles CSS and main JS. And in the templates folder, I want to create a base HTML file. So, and in the head tag, I want to add the link to Bootstrap CSS file. So I'm going to getbootstrap.com and copy this link and paste it here. Also, I need a link to my styles CSS file, and to do it I have to use the load static filter. And the href attribute will be static styles CSS. And before closing body tag, I want to add my main.js file. I'm doing the same, but instead of the link tag, I have to use the script tag. And also I want to add Vue.js to my project. Vue.js will manage our data and will take care of all DOM manipulations. So cdn.js.com libraries. I want to use Vue 2.6 and I want to use minified version. Then I needed to create a block to render data from the task app. That'll be the content block. The content is the name of this block, and I want to wrap this block with standard Bootstrap divs. So I need the container, I need the row, I want to have call div with 6 Bootstrap columns width, and I want to have it centered, mx auto, and maybe margin from top 5 Bootstrap units. And now let's create a new view to handle users' requests. I want to start with the routing, so in the root URLs PY module, that in the inner, in the child TODO folder, I am creating a new URL pattern. It means that to handle users' requests to the task's address, Django will use the URLs PY module of the task app, and I have to import the include function. My task app has no URLs PY file, so I have to create it. And the content of the URLs PY module will repeat the content of the root URLs PY module. So from Django URLs import path URL patterns list, I am creating a new pattern. The handler will be task view class. I'm calling as view method, and the name of that URL pattern will be task list URL. Now I have to define the task view class, and I will define it in the views PY module. So here I need to import it from dot means current folder, from .views import all. Okay, and now I have to create the task view class. So let's open views PY module, task view will be a subclass of the view class, and I want to import it. The get method of the task view will just render to a user the task's HTML template. So the returning value will be the result of the render function. The first argument is the request object, the template name, and the context dictionary. Let's say the name will be red. The keys of the context dictionary become variables of the templates tasks HTML, so I have to create this template. So inside the task folder I'm create a new folders templates task, and inside child task I'm creating a new file tasks HTML that extends base HTML file. And also I have to insert here the content block, the same name of the block that I used in the base HTML. So okay, I want to close base, URLs, PY, to do, settings, styles, urls.py. And inside the content block, I want to render the value of the name variable that I got from the context dictionary. I can use it with doubled curly brackets, and I'm specifying here the key of the context dictionary. So let's test it. He says that I have 18 unapplied migrations, so I want to apply them to read off this warning message. manage.py migrate command, and again run server. Okay, I've got read the value of the name variable. We ensured that this skeleton of the project works, and now I want to make an HTML layout for my project. So I need tasks HTML, read off this line, and here the layout will have one main part. It will be a div block with the app ID that will have two children parts. The first one is the form with an input field and a button, and the second part is just a container for all tasks. So here I'm creating a new div with app ID, and the first part is the form. You can use Bootstrap forms from documentation like I did in the last video. Here I quickly do almost the same, and the Emmet plugin will help me. So my form will be with the standard Bootstrap classes. It will have one div block with the form group and raw CSS classes. This row will have two columns, left and right. The left one with the label tag and an input field, and the right column will have only a button. So the left part, round brackets means a group of elements. So here I'm creating a new div with the column9 CSS class, and it will have two children elements, the label with the text new task, and the label will have a sibling. It will be an input with a form control CSS class, and this column9 div will have a sibling too. This sibling is a second column, and here I want to change the alignment direction for this div. So this div will have dflex CSS class and flex column CSS class, and its child tag will be a button with a type submit and btn success CSS classes, and then the text of this button will be just create in one line, tab, okay, let's test it. F5. I want to push my button to the bottom of the parents container. So the button tag should have empty margin from top, auto, CSS class, F5. Okay, the form is ready, and the same way I want to create a card for a task. The card you can find in the Bootstrap cards section, and the close button in the models section. So my main container for cards will have a margin from top at 5 Bootstrap units, and I need a card that will have the card body tag, and the card body div will have a child button with the button type and with the close and float right class. So button type button, and it will have close and float right CSS classes. The text times semicolon, and that's all. Okay, I've got the card, and let's add some text here. Okay, and I think it's time to create a Vue.js object and to try its data rendering. So I'm opening main.js file, and here I'm creating a new variable. Let's name it app. It will be a new Vue.js object that takes an object as an argument. And the first thing I have to do here is to specify the HTML tag that will be controlled and managed by my Vue.js object. And the binding HTML tags to Vue.js objects are performed with the EL key in this dictionary. It will be a div with the app ID, this whole div. Okay, then I need the data dictionary, data object. I'm specifying here a key that will become the variable I will use in my HTML template. It's the same idea like we have in Django. When we send to an HTML template a context dictionary, these keys become variables in the HTML template. The name key becomes a variable in the HTML template. Name, we used it a bit earlier. So the same idea we have in the Vue. So let's define a new key for the data dictionary. Let's say it will be the task key. And the value will be a new task, for example. And now I want to render the value of the task key in the template. And I do the same like I did before with the Django template. Double curly brackets, task. The task here is the task key of the data dictionary, of the data object. Let's test it. F5. And we can see that nothing happened because there is a conflict between Django and Vue.js. They are both trying to render here the task variable. And we can fix it with the Verbatim filter. So here in the task HTML file, I have to use the Verbatim filter that says to Django to ignore all wrapped content. And Verbatim. F5, Ctrl F5, new task. And as you know, one of the main features of Vue.js framework is the reactivity of data. And to show it, let's add to the input tag the vModal attribute, vModal. And that will have the task as the value. And again, the task here is the name of the key of the data dictionary. Vue.js manipulates a DOM via special attributes that are called directives, and one of its directives is the vModal attribute that established two-way data binding between HTML tag, input tag, and the data dictionary, data object of my Vue.js instance. Let's look at it. F5 again. And I'm input something in input field, and immediately the content of the value attribute of the input field rendered here in the card. The next step is to render a number of HTML elements that have the same layout. Let's assume that we have several tasks, and in Django template language, in DTL, we can iterate through a list of objects with a special for filter, and Vue can do the same. Let's add to the data dictionary a new key, a new variable, tasks, that will be a list of objects. And now I want to create a card layout for each element of the tasks list and render to each card the value of each title key. And to do it, I'm adding to the card def a new attribute, v4 directive, and the value of this directive will be a definition of the for loop, like in Python. So for task index in tasks, and on each iteration of the for loop, the task variable will get an element of the tasks list, that's a dictionary. So the text of the card will be task dictionary title key. Let's test it. And we can see here our tasks 1, 2. I want to add margin, MB, margin from bottom at 2. Okay. Our tasks are rendered successfully, and so it's time to create a couple of tasks and send them to the front end to display to user. And to do it, I have to create a new modal. In the modals py file, I am creating a new class. And it will have only 3 fields: the title, the date time of its creation, and the completed field. Auto now add will be true, and the completed field will be Boolean field, and by default all tasks will be not completed, false. Then I want to have meter subclass, and here I'm defining ordering variable. It's a list of fields that will be used by Django to sort a query set of tasks, completed and date, in reversed order, minus date. And let's define str method that will return the title of the card, of the task. That's all. And as I created a new modal, I should make migration files for the new database scheme, and I have to apply these migrations. So I need again manage py file, and migrate. Okay, and now I want to create a couple of instances of the task model with Django admin. So let's register our model in admin panel. I need admin py file, and here from models import task. Dot means current folder. Again, admin site register, and I am passing to the register method the task class, and that's all. Then to use the Django admin panel I need to create a user, and manage py has the create super user command. So create super user. Okay. Let's open Django admin panel. Admin. Tasks, add. Save and add another. Save. View site. Okay. And now I want to display to a user all saved tasks. Let's open Vue's py file, and here I have to import the task class. From models import task. And in the get method of my task view class I want to get all task objects from the database, and then I want to display them to a user. Typically, to get all objects, we use this expression. For example, the tasks, the task class, objects, model manager, all. But I have to send to my front end a JSON serializable object. But the all method returns an instance of the QuerySet class that is not JSON serializable. So I can use here, instead of the all method, the values method that will return QuerySet of dictionaries that I can convert to a list. And now I can return this tasks list of dictionaries to my front end. And the get method will return an instance of the JsonResponse class. And the JsonResponse class will encode my data to the JsonResponse. So let's import it firstly from Django HTTP import JsonResponse. Return JsonResponse. And the first argument of its init method is the data I want to send. I want to send the tasks list. By default, the save parameter equals to true. This is appropriate only when we return dictionaries. But in my case, I'm returning a list, and so I have to set the save parameter to false. And then, in my front-end side, I should convert the list to JSON format. And as the third argument, I want to have the status. That will be equal to 200, and that means OK. Let's test it. F5. And we can see the JSON object, a list with our two tasks. Great, but I want to have the form on the page, and also I want to send to my front end the tasks list when it will be needed. And to fix it, I have to check whether the request from a browser is an asynchronous call, AJAX call, or not. And to do it, in the previous video I used the isAJAX method of the request object, but since the Django version is 3.1, isAJAX method is deprecated. So we can have to use another way to check whether a request is an AJAX or not. And I can do it by checking the request's headers. So let's check them. If request object headers dictionary, and I want to get the value of the X requested with header, and if it's equals to XML HTTP request, so I'm returning the JSON response object. Otherwise, I want to render HTML template with the form, and I can delete the context. Let's test it. F5, and we can see the form again. Great. And now I need to get from Django all tasks and display them to a user. So I have to perform a GET request to Django when the page is loaded. To do it, I want to use the created lifecycle hook. It's called after the Vue object is created. So created. Then in the methods dictionary, comma, and then created. Okay, in the methods dictionary, I want to create a function to get all tasks from my Django app. Let's say it will be the get tasks method. And here I'm creating the response variable. That will be the result of the fetch function. I am calling the fetch function to perform a request to my Django app. So the first argument is the URL. URL will be http localhost 8000 port number tasks. But a server never responds immediately, so the call of the fetch function is a blocking operation. And so the fetch function call should be asynchronous. And I should await until the server will respond. And accordingly, the getTasks function should be asynchronous. By default, the fetch function performs getRequests. But for the sake of demonstration, I want to specify the HTTP methods explicitly. So the fetch function will take as the second argument a dictionary, an object with the key method that equals to get. And then I promised to Django that the get request will contain the X requested with header. So the second key of the dictionary will be headers key. It's also a dictionary, an object, and the header X requested with will have XML HTTP request value. I perform the request, and I will get from my Django app, from task views get method, a list with tasks. So I have to convert this list to a JSON object. Here, response variable, and I am calling the JSON method. And the result I want to save to the tasks key of the data dictionary. And of course, I should await until I'll get the response. So we can rid of these two tasks. And then I have to call the getTasks method in the created lifecycle hook. So await this get tasks, and accordingly the created function should be async to. Let's test it. F5, and we got our 2 tasks from Django app. Great. So my further steps will be the following. I have to save to a database the task from a user. Of course, I have to return to the Vue instance an updated list of all tasks that have already been saved in the database. Then, if a user clicks on a card, it will mean that task is completed and Vue object should send a request to Django to update its state. And if a user clicks on the close button, I want to send a request to delete this certain instance of the task class. So let's turn back to Django's side. And now I want to create a form for my task model. To do it, I have to create a new file, forms.py, from Django forms, import forms, and from models import task. And now I'm creating a new task form class. Then its meta class will be model task fields list will contain only title. And that's all. If you saw my Django blog tutorial, there is nothing new here for you. Django will generate an HTML form for the task model, but I won't use Django generated HTML. The form is already created. All I need here is the form validation on the Django side. Now let's open Vue.js file and let's import from forms the task form class. And to create a new task instance, I have to receive from a user a new task title. A user will perform a post request to my Django app. So on the Django side, I have to implement the post method for my task view class. Def post self request. The signature of the method is the same, and here bound form will be task form instance, and in the init method of the task form class I have to pass the data in a dictionary that user submitted. This data we can get from the request object from its body attribute. Task equals to request object body. But the body of the request object will contain data in bytes data type, so I have to convert it to Python's dictionary. And to do it, I have to import JSON module and to use the loads function. So import JSON. Task is JSON module load as load string, and then it gets the request body as an argument. And the task form init method gets the task dictionary. It's a dictionary. For the detailed explanation, consider to watch my Django 3 tutorial. Okay, I've got the submitted form, and now I can create the task class object. So if bound form, I'm calling the isValid method. So if it's valid, the new task will be bound form save. The save method will return an instance of the task class. And now I want to send to my front end the task object, but the task object, the new task variable, is not a JSON serializable object, it's a Python object. And there are many ways to serialize Python's object. One of the ways to serialize data is to use Django REST framework serializer, but in this case, the simplest way to do it is to use the model to dict function. So somewhere here, for example, from Django forms models, import model to dict. And again, the returning value will be an instance of the JsonResponse class. Return JsonResponse. And this time it will be dictionary task model to dict and a new task as an argument. Status will be 200. If the form is not valid, the returning value will be the result of the redirect function, and I want to redirect a user to the task list a URL. It's the name of the URL pattern that I have specified here in the URLs.py file. So I have to import the redirect function from Django shortcuts, import redirect. Now let's back to Vue.js main.js file. I've got the backend that is ready to accept data from the Vue object, and now I need to send requests to Django with the user's data to create a new task. That'll be a post request. But firstly, I want to correct a bit the structure of the task attribute of the data object. The task here will be a dictionary with the title key, and the title will be an empty string. So task HTML, I have to bind the input tag with the task title key, and back again to the main.js. And now let's create a new method. Let's say it will be the create task method in the methods object. It should be async to create task, and here it will be a good idea to get all actual data from the server before I perform a new request. So I'm calling the get task method here, and here I have to do almost the same. So I am calling the fetch function, URL address is the same, dictionary. The method key will be post headers. I need this one, and also I want to use content type header that will be application JSON, comma, and the body of this request will be a stringify method, stringified this task, a dictionary, an object. I send request, Django handles it, and now I want to get an updated tasks list. So I'm calling the get tasks method again, await this get task. And now I want to have the submit event handler that will perform a post request with this data to my Django app. So in the tasks HTML file, I am adding to the form tag the submit attribute, and the handler will be create task function. And also I want to prevent default behavior of my browser with the prevent modifier. Submit.prevent. Because of the action attribute of the form is omitted, browsers will perform a GET request to the address that is present in its address bar. And default request will be a GET request because my form has no method attribute to. Okay, let's test it. F5. Django forms has no attribute model form. Sorry. Or from Django forms import model form. Okay. F5. Create, inspect, console. The get task is not a function. Because the function get tasks. Get tasks. Okay. F5. Okay, nothing changed. And if we look at the shell, we can see that Django requires CSRF token to be passed in the post requests, as usual. And in previous videos, we used CSRF token filter in Django HTML templates, or I parsed cookies to get CSRF token. But these methods are good if we have HTML templates generated by Django. And what we have to do if we have only front-end generated HTML. And to solve this task, I want to create a new Django Vue that will return a CSRF token to my front-end. First of all, I need a new URL pattern and a new Django Vue. Let's open urls.py file of the task app. And here I want to create a new pattern, CSRF, for example. And the handler will be a function. Let's say it will be generate CSRF. And now in the views.py file, I'm creating a new view. It will be a function, generate CSRF. As I said here, the function will return a JsonResponse object again. It will be a dictionary, the key CSRF token, and the value is the result of the get token function that gets the request object as an argument. Status 200, and now I should import the get token function. So from Django middleware CSRF import get token. And that's all with the Django side, and now the Vue.js side. First of all, I want to add to the data object a new key. Let's say it will be CSRF, and it will be null. And then I'm creating a new method, maybe here. It should be async to, let's say it will be get CSRF token method. comma. And here I want to check whether the CSRF key of the data object is null or not. If it's null, then I want to perform a new GET request to Django to generate CSRF function to get it. So if this CSRF equals to null, then await localhost tasks CSRF, and that's all. Then let's say the data will be await response JSON, and I want to save the CSRF token to the CSRF key. So this CSRF equals to data, it's a dictionary, and I take its CSRF token, the value of the CSRF token key, like I said here, CSRF token. It's the name of the key. Otherwise, I want to return just this CSRF, and that's all. Now I want to call this method every time I need the CSRF token. So in the create task method, here in the headers dictionary, I'm creating a new header. It will be Django's X CSRF token header, and it will get the value. I am awaiting this get CSRF token function. Let's test it. F5, and it works. It's great. But as you can probably notice, I have some code redundancy here. My both methods, maybe 3 methods, are doing almost the same. The difference is just in headers and the body of a request. So I want to define a more general method that will perform any request we need. Let's say it will be send request method. It should be async send request, and it takes 3 arguments: the URL, the method, and the data, comma. Then here I have to define headers for my requests. Post, delete, and put requests should have the CSRF token, but the get requests don't. So I want to use the headers object. Let's create a new variable, let's say my headers. That will be a new object of headers that takes an object as an argument. And my headers will contain all common headers for all requests. I think that is content type and X requests, X requested with headers. This once I copy it here. Okay. Then I want to check whether the method argument is get or not. If the method is not get, so I have to add the X CSRF token header to the headers object. So if method argument is not get, then my headers dictionary gets a new header, X CSRF token as the first argument, and the value will be await, comma here, this get CSRF token function. Okay, and then I perform requests. So var response equals to await fetch URL method headers dictionary. It's my headers object, and body will be data. Okay, and the send request function will return response. That's all. And now I want to correct my methods. So get CSRF token, await, Ctrl C, get CSRF token, await send requests. The method will be get, then get tasks send requests method get, and I can delete the headers dictionary, this tasks response JSON. Okay, here the same method will be post headers remove the data argument will be JSON stringify this task. Delete curly brackets. Okay, and that's all. I think let's test it. F5, something wrong here. Send request is not defined. Okay, because this okay, F5, get requests works, post request works. Okay, it works, but I want to clean the input field when the post is created. So in the create task, I want to use this task title equals to an empty string. F5. Okay. Then, the last steps, I want to delete a task and I want to complete a task. So I need two new Django views and two Vue.js methods. Let's start with the Vue.js delete task method. Delete task. It should be asynchronous too, and it takes a task object as an argument. The task object is an element of the tasks list of our Vue instance, and as you can remember, the tasks list contains all task objects as they are saved in the database, with all attributes, with ID, with the completed, with date, and so on. So here in the delete task method, I just call the send request method, await this send request, the URL will be the same, the method will be delete, and the data will be stringified task object. And again, I want to call the getTask method to get an updated list of our tasks. So await this getTasks method. And then I have to set an onClick event handler for a close button in the tasks HTML. And somewhere here I want to add the click event handler, and the handler will be delete task method that takes the task object. And the task variable here is the certain element of the tasks list. And at last I have to create a new delete method for Django Task Vue class. Def delete self request. First of all, to delete an object from a database, I have to know its ID or other unique property. And as we described in the get method here, our Vue.js frontend gets a list with the tasks objects as they are saved in the database, with the date, with ID, and with the other attributes. And so the delete task method of our Vue instance sent to Django a stringified task object. So I have to get the task object from the request object, from this request object. Let's say it will be response variable, JSON loads, and I am passing into it the request and body. If you want, you can print the response. It will be a dictionary. Response. Okay. I got a response. It's a Python's dictionary. And that dictionary I can use to get the task object from the database. So the task will be task module, objects module manager, get. And to get a certain task object, I have to pass into the get method the unique identifying attribute of that task object, its ID in this case. And the value of the ID parameter is the response dictionary. I call its get method and I need to get the ID, the value of the ID key. So I got the task and now I am deleting it. Task delete and return something like results ok. It doesn't matter. And that's all. Let's test it. F5. It works, and we can see the response dictionary that I've got from request body. It's a dictionary that represents a certain task object. Great. Very simple. So, the last action I need to implement, I want to have a double-click event handler to complete a task. So I need new methods. Let's start with the Vue.js method. Let's say it will be complete task async complete task that takes the task object as an argument. comma here, and I do almost the same. So copy this here, but the method will be put. And that's all. And then in the tasks HTML template, I want to set double-click event handler on the card body. Add dbl double-click, and the handler will be complete task method that takes the task object as an argument. And also I want to add additional CSS class for those tasks that are completed. To do it, I'm adding a new attribute class, and I want to use here dictionary, and the key is the name of the CSS class. Let's say it will be completed CSS class. So I want to add the completed CSS class if the task is completed. By default, tasks are not completed. The completed attributes equals to false. Okay, and now in the styles CSS, I want to specify the completed CSS class. Text decoration will be a line through. And that's all. And now the Django side. In Vue SPY, I'm defining a new method, the put method. The signature is the same, and again I have to get the task from the database. So I am parsing the response from Vue.js, and I got the task object from the database. Then task completed property becomes true. Task save, and I want to return JsonResponse object with, for example, a new task. Model to dict with updated task. And that's all. Let's test it again. Okay, double click, and it works. By the way, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorting list is performed due to the ordering property in our task class, due to this class attribute. It means that the values method of the context manager returns the sorted list. By the way, I forgot we can use here a single line for URL. Main URL equals to, and then we can use here localhost 8000 tasks, and we can use only this variable for we can use this variable in each methods. Okay, let's test it again. 5. Okay. Great. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.